Okay.
So Vinnie, let me know whenever you want me to get going, and I'll get it started.
I am ready when we, think we've captured. How many people were on when we switched?
There were about 30.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's
You drop the link in either on both your Facebook or your fencing coach page and the meeting thing, because I got it in a personal message, but I don't see the link to this Zoom.
Yeah, that's fine. I put this on I put it on my Facebook page, and
Can you turn it up?
I'll put this on InstaFace too. Just real quick.
okay, well, technology can be such a pain.
You can.
But really, we could never have had this meeting before. I mean, the coaches from all over the nation are showing up.
That's true.
Yeah. So, okay, we'll wait.
Andy Gearhart, nice.
What?
Andy Gearhart. I don't know who Jeff Davis is.
Jeff Davis? That's the guy from Nova.
Oh, I guess it is.
Jill, Jill and Alan, you guys are
We can hear every word you're saying.
all good. That Jeff Davis, though, he's a quality guy. Okay, well, we've got a decent number of participants right now, so in the interest of time, since we're already running over, Vinnie, you want to just get rolling, and we're recording, so
Okay. Okay, so
yeah. I got a little intro here. I'll kick it off, and we can get rolling. So first of all, everybody forgive me. You can hear my daughter brought home the flu from daycare. I'm a little bit a little bit under the weather right now, so I'm going to sound a little froggy. But
Got it. Well, he changed to Zoom and it worked out.
yeah, and everybody just make sure as you're joining, make sure you're muted, because I think it goes to unmute by default. So anyhow, everybody. I'm honored to have the opportunity to have Vinnie on a live stream. Everybody knows who she is. She is the executive director right now, the U.S. Fencing Coaches Association. If I called her a legend, that would be a gross understatement. Because among the things that Vinnie has accomplished in her career, and this is ridiculous when I look this over: Olympian, 1984, two-time NIWFA champion in women's foil, five-time Division I national champion, won multiple titles in epee. And as I was researching Vinnie, I learned that she did that despite never taking any epee lessons. She just waltzes in, puts an epee in her hand, and wins multiple titles that way. In fact, she entered the Guinness Book of Records because she did that 4 years in a row. And in addition to that, Vinnie was the first woman ever to win the foil epee national titles in the same year. And then, despite being denied a lot of opportunities, both as a competitor and a coach, because of her gender, she's somebody that managed to really break down barriers, pave the way for women's epee in our country and abroad as well. She was the second female master of arms in United States history and is one of 5 female fencing masters in the country. For everything she was able to do in her career, she was inducted in the USA Fencing Hall of Fame in 1999. And beyond the on-strip accomplishments of Vinnie, she's a role model and mentor to many in the fencing community, certainly myself included. And when I read the comments on my page about Vinnie joining me for a live stream, the outpour of love for her was overwhelming. I mean, go back and look at it. A number of people just over the years who she's met who absolutely love everything that she's done. And both as a competitor, a mentor, as a coach. So now Vinnie is continuing that tradition of being a mover and shaker in the fencing world. She's here with me tonight to discuss the new national coaching development program standards that are being developed. And that's going to seek to break down barriers in coaching and make it more accessible for all. So everybody give a round of applause, virtually, whatever reactions for Vinnie Bradford. Honored to join you here tonight, Vinnie.
Thank you. Thank you, Damien. That was a really nice introduction. I appreciate that. And
My pleasure.
So what I wanted to meet with everybody about, and I'm going to hold a couple of these meetings, is a national coaching development program. And as Damien said, I've been in this sport for a million years. And the whole time I've been in the sport, there's only been one short period where we had anything for coaching development, and that was the Coaches College. And I'm sure many of you have attended the Coaches College or know about the Coaches College. But that was just a short period in our 125-year history. We have never had done anything for our coaches. And so I'm thinking it's about darn time that we do. So as the executive director of the USFCA, I've been working with a team of people to put together what we're calling the National Coaching Development Program. And I'd like to, it's not totally finished, but I'd like to start rolling it out, and I'd like to share it with the coaching community. And I'd like to hear what you have to say about it. So let me start with let me give my little PowerPoint. Okay, National Coaching Development Program, NCDP. When I first took this job, I kind of went on a little listening tour. And in fact, I'm still on a listening tour. And what many coaches and many people in the fencing community said to me was, you know, it's great that the USFCA certifies, but you don't have any education or training to back it up. So it's kind of a mystery how we get to the criteria we need to get to pass an exam. In other words, the fencing community is crying out for a clear, transparent pathway that's very organized, that takes people from beginning level coach to advanced level coach. This is our vision, is that we have a 5-level licensing program. Level 1 will be created, or is whatever the USA Fencing says a base fencing coach is. Right now, that's the Safe Sports Certified, anti-harassment training, and a background check. We hope that USA Fencing will add continuing education hours to that. And according to my conversations with Phil and Susie, that is in the works. After that, USFCA Fencing will take levels 2, 3, 4, and 5. Level 2 is what we are now calling assistant moniteur. But we're looking at name changes, so perhaps we would call that the assistant coach. We're thinking that's going to be 4 to 6 hours of online coursework, a 12-hour face-to-face coaching clinic, and 20 hours of logged practice hours. That still needs to be worked out. And then to maintain your level 2 license, you would need 6 hours of continuing education every 2 years, plus you have to maintain the USA Fencing base coach requirements. Level 3, coach, 6 to 8 hours of online coursework, 24 hours of face-to-face coaching clinics. And again, you'll be required to log so many hours in your own club doing specific work. 8 hours of continuing education to maintain that license every 2 years. Level 4 is the head coach. 6 to 8 hours of coursework, 48 hours of face-to-face coaching clinics, logged practice hours, and 12 hours of continuing education every 2 years. Level 5 is the fencing master. The fencing master must, in addition to the coursework and the face-to-face clinics, must contribute 16 hours as a coach developer herself. A coach developer is the person who teaches in a NCDP clinic. And they have to have log practice hours, and they can do a thesis or a special project. To maintain that license is 12 hours every 2 years of continuing education. I can't see if anybody's raising their hand, so just unmute yourself and give me, let me know you have a question.
Yeah, so Vinny, I'm looking at the questions here. Sharon Gordon asked, what happens if you have a Russian coach who has a degree in coaching, covered the United States, and Julie responded there that they can certify through an equivalency program, but they would still have the continuing education expectation. So that's what's come through so far.
Yes, this vision is a young person who's finishing their athletic career and they're interested in becoming a coach. And the problem we've always had in this country is, I see Michael Marks. When he retired, he said, well, I want to be a coach. And he had to go around and figure out how to do that. I had to do the same thing. Julie had to do the same thing. Damien, you're having to do the same thing. So we want to put an end to that guesswork and create the pipeline. Now, if someone from Russia or Italy or Cuba or whatever comes over here and they already have coaching education or certification, right now we have in place an equivalency application. So we recognize coaches from all over the world all the time right now. And if anybody is interested in that, it's on the website. You can apply for it.
So Vinny, another question just came in, and forgive me, sir, if I mispronounced your last name. Alex Busavicius asked, is the plan for the level 2 to 5 licenses to replace existing certifications or to exist alongside?
So once you become an assistant monitor or a monitor or a master, whatever your level of certification, you are always certified as a fencing master. But like in all professions, to practice, you have to keep up with current information, and you're required in all professions to have continuing education every year. So once you're certified, you're always certified. But to keep your license, you have to do the continuing education.
So Vinny, my personal reaction as I look at these standards and I see, kind of the requirements for certification, my, immediate reaction looking at this is that it is increasing accessibility to coaching. When you look at the USFCA website right now, as it stands, I believe to be certified as a monitor, you need to go through something like 40 hours of supervised training with a master. And as we know, a lot of the time there are folks who don't have a master on hand. I believe in EPE, there's only something like 50 in the country. So the fact that we're allowing this kind of, access to online training, removing a lot of the auditing requirements and stuff like that, my immediate reaction to this is that it's kind of breaking down some of the barriers that exist in the coaching profession. Is that kind of your intention that you were going with this? And if you could tell us a little bit more about that.
Well, a couple of things I want to say is, you're right. We want to make coaching education accessible. So there's fencing deserts out there. We recognize that. One of the things we want to do is make these clinics local. So, you know, maybe you only need 6 or 7 people to show up at a level 2 clinic. And that gives coaches across the nation the opportunity to build the coaching ranks in their area. We plan to have coach developer training, which will be free and open to everyone who is certified that's interested in hosting any of these clinics. What was the other point I was going to make? A lot of the online classes, of course, makes it much more accessible to all of the coaches across the nation. But I think the coach developer point is what I really want to stress, is if we can get coach developers all over the country, minimize the travel that people have to do to go to coaching clinics. And then when people do go to a coaching clinic, they know exactly what is going to be taught at the clinic. And let me make another point about that. I have a particular way of teaching. It's the Vinnie Bradford School of Fencing, and you know, it's really good. But then I know that Michael Marks has a way of teaching, and it's really good. And Damien has a great way of teaching. All of us have different styles. All of us are influenced by different schools, Polish school, Italian school, whatever. So the way that this is designed is, no matter what your influence, no matter what your teaching style, you can take the curriculum and use it, utilizing your own style. And let me show you. Oops. So, for example, a level 2 foil clinic has 4 main, it's a 12-hour clinic, by the way. We envision this being like 2 6-hour days, or an 8-hour and a 4-hour day, however you want to break it up. There are 4 learning objectives. The candidate will be able to explain, demonstrate, guide, correct, critique at the foundational level. And these are words that we're using across the board. All fencing coaches should be able to explain the action, the tactic, the theory. All fencing coaches must be able to demonstrate at least basic demonstration. Everybody's got a guide, that means teach. Everybody needs to know how to correct, and critique is a deeper level of correcting. So the beginning fencing coach is going to learn these terms, and whatever actions we teach and you guys teach in the clinic, then they should be able to explain the action, demonstrate the action, and teach the action. And more specifically, the candidates should be able to instruct students in foundational positions and footwork, foundational blade work, and foundational tactic components. And these are broken down more specifically here. The foundational positions and footwork: advance, retreat, lunge, recover. Foundational blade work: a little coordination between the hands and the legs, thrusting to the 4 different targets in foil, and simple disengaged thrust. The 4 supinated hand positions and the subsequent parries and simple reposts, etc. So this is an assistant monitor. This is the in our opinion, the very, very beginning level coach. And no matter what your style is, this is like contract learning. When the candidate leaves the clinic, there's going to be a little checkoff thing. The candidate learned to teach the on guard position. Check. There won't be a test. And you know, when I teach students on guard, there's 3 or 4 different ways I do it. Depends if I'm thinking like a French guy or if I'm thinking like an Italian woman, you know. So your style, you take the learning objectives, you present them in the way that meets your way of teaching. Are there any questions at this point?
So Vinnie, I was just trying to kind of answer a couple of them to my knowledge that were in the chat. We've actually had a couple come through. So let me scroll up to the ones that we have not addressed yet. Christina Masialavaca just asked, what kind of mentoring program will there be?
Okay, so as I said, we are not done with this. This is in progress. And a mentorship program is on our radar, Christina, but we haven't gotten to that yet. So I really can't answer your question. I would like to say, you know, we're piloting level 2 and level 3 clinics between now and April. And then we're going to do more piloting. I'll talk about that in a second. But that's a good question, Christina, and it is on our radar. I just don't have an answer for you right now.
So this comment came in from David Brown. He said, it seems to me that at the master level, the requirement for more study is a big challenge to the ego. It will be a tough sell. Yeah, I'll just personally, I'll try to address that one. You know, I always hated the term fencing master, right? Because it implies that you have reached the apex of this profession, when in reality, you know, you look at somebody like Vinnie as a coach or Michael Marks, and you see that there's always this continuous spirit of learning in our profession, right? We never can say that what we knew in the 90s is going to be relevant today. So you're right, David. I think there is going to be an element of, you know, changing the ways that we're used to this profession. But at the end of the day, the game is constantly changing. And if our role as coaches is to maximize readiness of our students, then we need to make sure that we're learning from others, that we're staying on top of this and really understanding how the game's evolving. Anything I missed, or anybody add anything there?
No, I think you're absolutely right. But I would also like to emphasize that the fencing coaching community has been crying out for, again, let me say, a clear, transparent, organized pathway, training pathway that leads to certification. And it's an element that has been missing. We have been criticized for it. USFCA has been criticized for it. USA Fencing has been criticized for it. And it's a big, big change. You're absolutely right. It's a big change. And that's why I'm going out into the community to hear further what the community thinks about this, and will the community support it?
Do you mind if I address something really fast?
Please.
I think it's really important for everyone to understand that when we're talking about retooling the program, the coaches program moving forward, we're really talking about emerging coaches. We're talking about trying to have a national standard for coaches. That includes ethics and injury prevention and, you know, sports psychology and so many different aspects of training. We're not specifically talking about established fencing masters. If they've gotten a degree somewhere else in Russia or wherever, we're not really talking about them. We're trying to come up with a program to help US coaches develop. We're trying to have national standards so that we have a baseline quality control.
Yeah, and you know, one thing I would add to what Julie's saying is, you know, folks who came in from my Facebook page, who aren't necessarily certified. Look, I'm in the middle of this process right now, and you know, I'm going through the existing process for coach certification. And I'll be totally honest, it's been very confusing. You know, you go to some clinics and the way that they administer one exam is very different from how they would do it elsewhere. And you go to 10 different fencing masters, they're going to give you 10 different answers on, you know, what's expected on the exam and things like that. And I think that kind of lack of clarity is part of the reason why, if you look at the pipeline, you know, not a lot of folks are getting certified. So I think any effort to create clarity among what the expectations are for each level in a more objective manner, that's going to make it so you go to a clinic and it doesn't matter the fencing master that's going to be evaluating you. It's going to be crystal clear what your expectation is for each level. Speaking from my personal experience, that in and of itself is going to be a huge lift to what we have in the current state.
Also, I will say one of the criticisms of USFCA certification system right now is it is subject to the good old boy system. And we want to get rid of that. We want this certification or this pathway to be as objective as possible. And so we're changing from testing, relying so heavily on the practical exam, to more of a contract learning. And all the way up, you get, you have a checkoff list. And I believe David is using the word, or we're using the word formative. So, and what's the other word, David? Sumptive, I believe. In other words, there's a checkoff list as you're forming your skills. And then at the end, there's going to be some sort of like presentation that you're required to do at the highest level to get your certification, instead of a highly subjective board judging you.
That's right. So I'm just going back, making sure Julie's been answering a couple questions in chat. I have as well. I just want to make sure that we have answered everybody that's chimed in before we move on. It looks like we've gotten just about everybody. Let me just double check real quick. Yeah, and people ask about para fencing, Vinnie, and that is its own kind of separate track, but that is in scope, I believe, because right now there is a para fencing master certification track, and I think that's part of what you have here is part of the standards as well.
So one of the things I wanted you folks to know is it's not just, you know, Vinnie Bradford, David Sierra, and Julie Seal working in the back room creating this curriculum. It's been a whole bunch of people. Here I've listed formally our task forces and steering committee, but we've also had input from lots of people from around the country. And you can see we have a para coaching task force. We have a real severe shortage of para coaches who know what they're doing in this country. So if anybody out there is a knowledgeable para coach and would like to serve on the task force, we would love to have the help because our coaches are so busy right now that they just don't even have time to pay attention to this. It's on the back burner. So we're looking for some help. Let me share with you our timeline, and then I think I'll be done and we can finish up with some more questions. Next semester, I think in semester terms, but January to April, we're going to have roll out the coach developer training. And coach developer training will be focused on adult learning principles. How you teach adults. Because all of us, we've got students that are kids and we're one up. We have the power over them. But when you're a coach developer, you're working with peers. So part of the training will be on adult learning strategies. And part of the training will be on the curriculum and how you stick to the curriculum. We're going to be piloting a level 2 clinics, that's assistant monitor, and level 3 clinics, monitor clinics, throughout the semester. We have 7 locations that will be working with us to pilot these clinics. These locations are all dotted about the country, and we're waiting to collect some dates and a little bit more information. We will be coming out with a national calendar, hopefully before Christmas. We have 2 classes, online courses in production right now. One of them is on risk management and injury prevention for the level 2 coach. And one of them is on the professional duties and career path of a fencing coach. Those should be rolled out in a couple of months, I think. Then beginning in May and throughout the summer, we're going to have instead of having a coach's academy, we're going to have 3 regional residency clinics. One will be in Whitewater, Wisconsin. We're hoping that Nova Fencing Club will do one in Washington.
Shameless plug, please come on down.
And then FIT, Brenda Wattups is here on this call. FIT is going to do one in Dallas, Texas. These clinics will be piloting level 3 and level 4. Why do I have that twice? Because I made this slideshow in a big hurry. Then next year, we're going to have the level 3 online courses up and running. And we'll be piloting the level 5 clinics. The following year, we're going to have level 4 and level 5. All the classes will be up and running. And we'll be in full swing. That's our vision. And I'd like to hear what you all have to say. Any feedback, any questions?
Yeah, so I'm looking through and seeing, oh, go ahead, Christina.
Hi, Vinnie. How are you doing?
Good, Christina, good to see you.
Let me just, I have issues. Hold on. Yeah, I have issues with my things that give me an echo. I have issues with my laptop, so turn this thing off. I want to leave. Okay, so here I am on this one. It freezes sometimes, it goes crazy. But anyway, greetings from Greece. I now am residing in Greece. Yeah, and I just wanted, I am really bringing up the parafencing because I have felt that parafencing has been such a poor cousin in the US fencing community. I first started parafencing when the JOs were in Kentucky back in the 90s. I wanted to get involved in it. When I had my club, I couldn't because I was on the second floor, lots of la-di-da-di-da-da. Anyway, fast forward now, I was in Tokyo and was very happy to see the 3 US fencers that represented the US. I think there's a great potential for a lot more, a lot more. I'm very happy that I'm also on the USFA, USFA fencing, one of the development for parafencing committees. We just had to background check. And because I'm overseas, I had to do a $150 extra, whatever, getting all that cleared up. And I'm also glad that we'll be hosting the World Cup in January. And I spoke today with Phil Andrews about several things, and also about getting instruction for coaches. And I'm really want to see this happen, because LA 2028 is around the corner. And it would be a darn shame if the US cannot have a strong representation. There's potential there. The other thing that I want you guys to be aware of is that before Kat, whatever her last name is now, I forget, sorry, took over that position, with Brandon was there, and Brandon had started looking at having wheelchair fencing or parafencing at the college level, and looking at NCAA, possibly, putting it with NCAA events, which is kind of in, very, very beginning levels. But I just don't want parafencing to be so on the side. It has to be on the main conversation, because it is fencing, just like women's epee was, Vinnie,
I
and
agree.
just like saber was. I mean, women's
Christina, I completely
me?
hear you, and I totally 100% agree, and that's why I'm asking the coaching community if there's somebody out there that's knowledgeable about para coaching that can help us put together a curriculum, kind of following the similar guidelines. But we don't know. We don't know. We're not para coaches.
Gary Van Wyck.
Wage, and then, I think there's a potential to reach out to Julio Diaz here as well.
Well, they are already the committee, and they have both told us, sorry, we can't do anything until after Paris.
Yeah.
We're too busy. That's what I'm saying is, but help.
Well, I don't know. Maybe we need to really go through the logbook of who is. I don't know, Mickey. I don't know. He's no longer a national coach, but he's certainly knowledgeable. I don't know if he's a USFCA member, but certainly we should be able to try and recruit him. I mean, somebody like that. I'm actually working with Michael DeSara Jr. right now, because we're also trying to do broadcasting and commentating, because that's also, I'm on the IWAS executive, on the board, but I'm also head of promotion. And that's been a real issue, to do promotion and to do the commentating and all that kind of stuff. So I'm working with Michael DeSaro, and, that might be somebody else that we can, and what about Kat? I mean, have you approached Kat?
That's a good idea. No, I'm just reading the chat. Somebody suggested that. I think that's a really good idea. Thank you.
Good thing
Okay.
somebody suggested it after she got married. She's probably busy before now.
Yeah, and I know it's extremely busy time right now, and also with the January is the big competition. And I'm hoping, I don't know if you can also put it on the website that, USA hasn't hosted any parafencing in I don't know how long. For international competition. And we
So-
have to do it in order to be strong and ready for it. And it's a little more, it's a little more complicated hosting a competition for parafencing because you have to have the facilities, the hotels that,
Yeah,
have,
that's my
that
point,
kind of
is
stuff.
that none of us know anything about that, so.
So
because
maybe
it
we
is.
can create it. I mean, I'll be more than happy to help out and get people, and maybe we can create a little like roundtable,
Okay,
and I'll be more than
Okay.
happy because that's the name of my game these days.
all right,
So
Uh,
I'm gonna make a challenge to the folks on the line. I'm looking at the list of participants here and I'm seeing some of the most strongly opinionated people in the fencing community, and yet I'm hearing, limited questions. So I'm gonna just challenge anybody out there, put it out there, ask Vinnie the tough questions, and I'm chiming in here too. So reactions, questions, what do people have to say out there? We'd love to hear some opinions. Sharon asked, why are you not reaching out to Mickey Zeka? Mickey was the para coach in Tokyo. And
where is Mickey? I don't know Mickey.
he's at Zelkovich Fencing Academy,
Philadelphia.
Philadelphia. So somebody that we could definitely get on the list there, Sharon, for sure.
And also, I mean, who's going to be the Capital Clash is right before the World Cup in DC area. I don't know who's in the DC area. Michael Marks, where are you? Hi. What have you done any parafencing yet?
I looked into it. There are a lot of people better than I doing that, so I figured there are better
No, I
areas.
don't want to hear. I don't want to hear there's better people than I. I don't want to hear that.
Well, let's just say so many hours in the day.
Okay, well, you have to kind of create it because they're like Dimitri Kazaglis, who's the head coach here in Greece, started from zero, knowledge of nothing. He was a foil fencer and whatever, and he has put medals. He had a guy take third place. He started from nothing. He did it, and sometimes we got to just get off our feet.
I've
sit
certainly
down.
done it, and I've enjoyed it, and it was fun. It's just like, I can't add saber in my club either because I don't have enough space and enough time.
Well, that's the beauty of parafencing. You don't need a lot of space.
Yes, I looked into it.
Well, let's go beyond that.
Yes.
Let's stick to the subject for right now, though, and
Vinnie, I'll ask you a challenging question.
Okay.
So under the scope of USFCA, right, also included is classical fencing. And my question is, is the purpose of the USFCA to preserve historical fencing, or is it to produce coaches capable of training athletes at the highest levels of modern Olympic fencing?
So our mission is to empower coaches. And we do that through education, certification, and advocacy. And there are many fencing coaches that are very interested in historical fencing. Let's take the late, great Walter Green. He was a modern fencing master, and he created the Classical Fencing Academy, very interested in historical fencing. So we don't want to cut off whatever you're interested in. Not everybody wants to be a world-class coach. A lot of the greatest coaches in the world work at the developmental level. They get the young ones ready for the more ambitious coaches, but they are still the fencing master. So we want to keep the doors open. If you want to go the path of the Olympic coach, you can go that way. You can take the electives along the way that support that. You can work with the young hotshot athletes on your way up. But if you want to be, a developmental coach, you just love working with young people and you love watching people learn, but you don't particularly care about the competitive part, you can still go through the pipeline and take electives that support the way you want to come out. But as you go through the pipeline, you will have a great deal of knowledge when you come out. And then where you apply that knowledge is all up to you. And we want to keep historical fencing, and that is going to be an elective.
So elected based, okay, and that came through as a question here we've had a couple come in here now. Ken Galvey just said, I think someone asked before about whether this new program plan was a result of any benchmarking or coaching certifications in the other sports. David, Sierra, and Vinnie, I think based on our conversations we've had in the past, the answer is yes. There were a couple of standards that you guys kind of created a hodgepodge of based on some industry best practices. If you want to talk a little bit more about that.
It's pretty much, we understand across the board in the Olympic movement, most sports have 5 levels of certification. So we took that into account. And then we took into the account that we have 4 levels of certification, and USA Fencing wants to add a base. So that's 4 and 1 is 5. And so we, those 2 things influenced that. The other thing is we have aligned with the International Academy of Arms standards, and they have 5 levels. We're aligning with the national standards for sport coaches. They don't have levels, but they have a lot of material that we've divided into the levels. And we are also following the standards of the American Development Model.
So
I have a question. Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Okay. So follow up on something I asked in the chat, and that is, first of all, let me say I'm a big fan of all the ideas and the developments in progress. But it does seem to me that the soft spot in this is the in-person coaching clinics, which need to be a large number of them and suitably distributed. Not everybody can afford to take a lot of time to travel or travel at all. And so it needs to be many, perhaps small clinics all over the place, for which you need people to teach. And so that brings you back to development of how to teach clinics.
So that's what we're calling the coach developer. And we're going to offer online training for anybody that wants to be a coach developer. And then once you're a certified coach developer, you can hold level 2, level 3, level whatever clinic. And you can teach in it. Excuse me. Any club can host a clinic, but only the person who's a certified USFCA coach developer can teach in it. We have online training for our coach developers. And we want an army of coach developers across the nation to solve the problem you just said, David, is eliminate or minimize travel costs.
So then we just had I was looking for the hard questions when we got one here from Scott Tunderman. So Scott said he'd been a member for 25 years, been to a lot of clinics, looking to improve his skill. He said he's kind of been disappointed because he's been to a few clinics that go with kind of more of this elementary foundational level fencing. And, he doesn't need to learn again about how to teach footwork cues and simple indirect attacks. So he wants to know, what is the USFCA and its coaching development program going to offer somebody like Scott who wants to develop more high level coaching skills, move past the elementary level stuff?
So we haven't figured this totally out yet, but there's got to be a period of grandfathering. Well, 2 things. Let's say you're a Prevo right now and you enter the new system, well, then you enter into the last level, the master level. You don't have to start from the beginning. If you are a Prevo and you're caught kind of in the middle between the transition, then you'll be able to choose whether you want to go certified through the old way or come through the new system. And there will be a period where we're going to say to, you know, a lot of fencing coaches are not members of the USFCA. They be like, well, your certification means nothing. Well, now it's going to mean something. So we want to give those people a chance to join the USFCA and get the level of certification that they deserve through our equivalency process. We have equivalency. If you went to the coaches college, we give you, we have an equivalency. If you went to a foreign school, we have an equivalency process. If you are a notable coach, and we have several coaches in the United States who are self-taught, but they have incredible results. A notable coach has a way of getting a certification, kind of bypassing the traditional process. So those pathways are available now. We will alert people as we go along so they have a chance to jump in where they think they belong.
And so, Scott, like, I just want to make sure that your question's answered here. It seems you're asking less about, you know, kind of remapping under the new standards and more just about clinics moving forward and making sure that you're somebody from your questions here. You're sounding like you want to learn rocket science, and it sounds like a lot of the time you've gone to clinics and you're learning basic algebra instead. And if I'm understanding your question correctly, it's more along the lines of, you know, how do I go to the clinics that are really going to teach me the highest of the highest high level of fencing? Is that essentially what you're asking here, Scott?
Yeah, that's very fair. I mean, just as an example, Taro Yamashita and I were at one of the FCA clinics, and Josef Vitebsky was supposed to give a presentation on preparing the athlete for high level competition in epee. And Taro and I ended up helping him teach people how to take an engagement in 6, because the folks who were at the clinic just weren't prepared to absorb the material at all. And obviously I want there to be material for folks at that level, but I don't want to, you know, go to the annual clinic or whatever it is and end up helping to teach it instead of improving my own skills. I've been trying for years and years to, you know, sort of take myself from like a coach of C-level athletes to a coach of A-level athletes. And I don't know how to do that, and no one has been able to present it for me yet.
So Scott, the syllabi for each level will be very clear. The NCDP program, the syllabi will be very clear what the learning objectives are. So you'll be able to look at the, you know, like, you don't want to go to a level 2 clinic. I get that. And you shouldn't have to. Jump in there at level 4, probably. But you'll be able to see well before you enroll in the clinic what is going to be taught at the clinic. That's with an NCDP clinic. So you can jump in there at the higher level, Scott.
That sounds like a huge improvement, you know, and even back with the USA Fencing's Coaches College, I had to start at level 1, and I got top in the class in all the level 1 things I did. And then I did level 2, you know, but that wasn't what I needed to be learning. So I appreciate the opportunity to participate, you know, where I can.
Yeah, jump in there where you think, but listen, if you don't have a USFCA equivalency, contact me. Let's get you an equivalency. Because you probably should be. Are you level 3 in at the coaches college? Did you go attend level 3?
I didn't. I did levels 1 and 2.
I think that makes you a monitor, which then makes you eligible to jump right in there for level 4 clinics.
Yeah, Bruce Gilman and I were each other's students for our monitor tests at a FCA annual meeting a few years ago. So
Oh, okay.
we're at least monitors.
Okay, you're good. You're good.
Yeah,
Um,
and I think, Vinnie, David, keep me honest here. I think there's another component of Scott's question here, which is feedback loop, right? I think, even beyond clearly laying out the objectives for each of the curriculums that coach is going to teach, I think based on the direction that the org is moving, there's also going to be a kind of standardized survey feedback loop that if you're attending a Damian Layfelt clinic and I say that we're going to do a jump 6 flick over the back, and train you on that, and then I end up just teaching you guys how to do a disengaged lunge, that's going to be evaluated in terms of how I have fulfilled the objectives of that I promised to deliver upon. So I think, correct me if I'm wrong, David, Vinnie, there is going to be more of a feedback loop here in place to make sure that the coach developers are delivering upon what they say they're going to deliver upon.
there's going to be 3 ways to evaluate every clinic. First, the participants. Right now, we have an evaluation system and it's online. So at the end of the clinic, the participants get their phone, they log into our website, they put in the number of the clinic and evaluate it. So we can know right away what the students are thinking about the clinic. And then the host, the person who organizes the clinic, also has to give an evaluation. They evaluate themselves, how did it go? And then they also evaluate the USFCA, how were our services? The third form of evaluation that we intend to have is a face-to-face evaluation. We're not every clinic, but we'll periodically send someone from the USFCA to observe and see how it's going. And of course, that will not be a surprise. We'll work with the host and the coach developers to make sure they know.
So one comment just came in from Sharon Gordon, and I think that comment segues nicely into one of the questions that we got from the community as well. So Vinnie, beforehand, I put up a post. I said, anybody who's attending this, submit your questions for Vinnie. So what Sharon said was the coach developers should be the top coaches in the USA. And that segues nicely into a question from David Brown, who's also on the call tonight. And he asked, how can we encourage quality athletes at the end of their fencing careers to join the USFCA and get certified? And, also I'll tag on to that. How can we get the folks like the national coaches right now, like I'll use Natalie Dostert as a strawman example there. Natalie is excellent coach, women's national coach right now, not technically certified. So how do you get quality athletes at the end of their careers to, become coaches? And then how do you get the really quality coaches that are already out there to become USA Coaches Association members as well?
I think the way that we get young coaches in the pipeline is to create the pipeline. Because as I said, now, when I was a young coach, I started coaching like my coach. And my coach was Michael DeSaro Sr. And he learned to coach from his coach, who was Csaba Eltes. And Csaba Eltes learned to coach in Hungary under a military system, which was highly abusive. And that abuse was passed down from where Csaba learned, and he abused his students, and his students abused my generation. And I started off as an abusive coach, thinking I was being motivating. So I stumbled. I stumbled along the way. And I know all of you who are self-trained, you stumble too as you learn. Well, that's not very inviting to a young person who's like, I just got a degree and now I got to figure out how to do this. No, thank you. I think so. We have to get young people in the pipeline by creating the pipeline. How do we get the coaches who are already top coaches out there that don't want to have anything to do with us? I don't know. If they don't want to come and, I mean, as a professional, part of my duty is service. And believe you me, I am not getting rich being the executive director of the USFCA. I'm not getting paid very much money, and I'm not getting paid for all the hours that I do. Why am I doing that? Because
Christina Masiala, you are unmuted. If you could kindly mute your line. Thank you.
I do all this, you know, because I'm passionate, because I love my sport, because I want to give back to my sport. So service is part of how I judge my own success. And I would encourage all fencing coaches who are you count yourself professional, service and giving back should be part of what you do. So I think that these advanced coaches who already know what they're doing, and why join the USFCA? What can the USFCA do for me? The USFCA is your fencing community. It is your voice. You have an opportunity to guide the future of coaching education, the future of fencing coaching in this country.
All right, more questions coming in. I wanted to just make sure that we hit on these as well. So there are 5 female fencing masters in this country, and 2 of them are on this call. And so the question is, what can we be doing? And this is just, you know, something asked by Matt Stone of Richmond Fencing Club. Like, what can we be doing more at the club level to encourage female fencers, to increase the pipeline of female coaches in the United States of America, and joining the USFCA as well?
Well, first of all, get your kids in the pipeline. Get women role models. When young women look around and they see no other women are coaching, they think on a very deep level, oh, I can't be a coach. So we have to, if you can recruit women in your club to be leaders, that would be helpful. Put women through the pipeline as we get it built up. One of the reasons that women have been scared off from fencing is because fencing is a very elitist, sexist, misogynist sport. I mean, think about it. When I started fencing, women could only fence foil. And we were only allowed to fence for 4 touches, not 5, because we might faint before we get to the 5th touch. And you know, so the whole system of fencing, the whole culture of fencing has been anti-women for 125 years. And so we all got to step up to the plate and help women and people of color too, because we're all white. And we all have to work to open the doors and be more inclusive. Well, oh, and the other point I was going to make is our testing system right now is working against us, because it's a way to keep people out that we don't think belong. So if you're a woman, there's been a big message throughout the whole fencing community, you know, you can be a developmental coach, but don't try to go any higher because you're just a woman. And that, even though no one says that out loud, but all of you women in the room who've heard that at some level, raise your hand. Okay, we're not in a room. I can't see who's raising their hand, but I can tell you a lot of people are. So if we change the system to the contract learning check-off system, we open the doors to everybody.
Absolutely. Let's see. Are there any other questions here? There's a right on Vinnie. I will second that sentiment. That answer got me fired up. So right on Vinnie. Thank you for that. Okay, Sharon Gordon, Ariana is not here. Notice that none of the, okay. Now, are there any other questions either in chat or people want to jump on and ask? Alex, again, I'm sorry if I'm butchering your last name, Alex Busavicius. Will the process for going up a level, monitor to Prevo, for example, change with the new system? And I think based on what you're saying, the answer is yes. However, it looks like it's going to be a little bit more accessible, a little bit less convoluted, a little bit more about how you show up and perform in clinics and less about, you know, how you could teach someone that was relevant in 1965. So, I mean, yeah, you could probably speak more to the specifics of it, but it does seem like I wouldn't necessarily call the steps easier, but they're more transparent and a little bit clearer about what is expected of you with each level on a consistent basis.
And courses will be required. You'll be required those 6 hours of courses and the 12 or the 24 or the 48 hours of clinics. You have to have all that to get your certification. Now, to get your certification, you guess, oh, what do you think they want? I wonder if I'm good enough. Should I pay the money now or should I wait? We want to eliminate all that guessing.
And we just got a comment from Meredith Powers that clarity and transparency is refreshing.
Thank you.
And Claire just said, what happened to Jen Oldham, who's an amazing coach? Having support for our female coaches need to be there in full force. Giving our female coaches a safe environment is crucial. Guys, I'm going to go on a rant. This is technically supposed to be my live stream, but we pivoted to Zoom. So I'm going to go on a rant here. So bear with me, okay? When we talk about Jen Oldham, we talk about one of the finest fencing coaches in the country who has been clear and transparent over the fact that coming home from a NAC, she was sexually assaulted on a plane by another coach who there was an eyewitness present who attested to every single one of her claims, corroborated everything that she said. And what did Safe Sport do with this abuser? Absolutely nothing. Okay. And so we received these frequent reminders that the U.S. Center for Safe Sport is not protecting our coaches, our athletes. And so we as a community, that responsibility falls on us when this bureaucratic failure of the U.S. Center for Safe Sport fails, that we are going to be looking out for people like Jen. And we're going to be looking out for people like Vinnie in the future, who, when I'm reading about Vinnie, all of the jeering and bullying she faced growing up and being in fencing, literally people physically picking her up and removing her from the strip as a result of being a female. This is out there. I'll put this like, this is what this is a reality of fencing that people like Vinnie had to deal with, in the past. And it's things that Jen Oldham is dealing with right now in the present. So that's a reminder that we got to look out for our own, and we got to promote positive, healthy environments for women in the fencing community. So that's the end of my rant in response to what Clara just said.
Let me join your rant. We are working with Jen and I and Iris Zimmerman and Julie and a couple other people were like the original, hey, let's get together and have a W fencing organization. And Jen, to Jen's credit, she's taken it and built it up. And so USFCA and W fencing are working together. We're promoting their learning pods. They have these little learning pod Zoom clinics. We're going to be promoting those. They've just come out with a blog called Be a Fencing Ally. And Julie's going to send out a link on social media to our membership, and we're going to put it on our front page. So we're definitely working with W fencing. They're our friend.
I haven't seen any other questions come through in the chat. So yeah, I'm trying to think if there's anything else. David, Vinny,
David?
anything else?
Damien,
Yes, sir.
back you up on one thing. My daughter-in-law is a pretty decent coach. I taught her she should be. But when what happened to Jen happened, Steph turned around and went back to historical fencing. Decided that USFA, USFCA wasn't providing the backup that was needed. This is a 30-year-old woman that's seen that kind of crap and said, I don't need to mess with it. That's what happened.
And John, I wish I could tell you that it was, that I wish I could reassure you that there was a fluke here, but we're seeing this a lot in refereeing as well. We're seeing quality top tier female referees who are going up the ranks. They're going, getting their ratings, they're getting FIE ratings, they're experiencing sexual harassment within the internal ranks of refereeing. They're experiencing misogyny at every level, right? This is poison in our sport, and it's happening in coaching, and it's causing quality coaches like your daughter to walk away. It's happening in refereeing too, where our best referees, a lot of them are female, and they just throw their hands up and they say this isn't worth it anymore. And we've got to create an environment where people say, I feel safe here, I feel appreciated regardless of my gender, and make people feel like it is worth it. So I'm sorry to hear that, and I wish I could give you every reason to have her come back, but I'm like, if she experienced that and that's what she perceived in this community, it's hard to go to anybody and say, you know what, come back to our toxic little puddle here, so I'm sorry that happened.
And I will add that we have 125 years of sexism in our culture. And you said it, Damien, it's not only fencing, it's soccer, it's football, it's basketball, it's every sport, it's in sport. How do we change that? It's the coach. We create the beginning environment. Someone is exposed to fencing, we create the environment. So it starts with us. And one of the things I want to say about our curriculum is we are very focused on ethics. And at every level that you move up the ranks, there will be an ethics course. The first two will be, an introduction to ethics, online, asynchronous. At level 4, it's going to be face-to-face, and we're talking about hiring a professor of ethics or a professor of philosophy who teaches ethics or sports ethics, because we want to have a real conversation about ethics. We want all of our coaches to think deeply about it.
That's great. All right. Well, I think that wraps up questions here. So
one more question.
Yeah, Scott, go ahead, man.
Sorry, what my amazing student who is too shy to bring it back up posted a question that didn't get answered, and it was just a sort of practical question about whether lower level coaches would be allowed to participate in higher level clinics or the online material, whether they'd have access to that stuff, or is there sort of a qualification to be eligible for each tier of instruction?
Let me answer that question, Vinny.
Thanks.
So that's the first time I've actually spoken up. I'm David Sear. I'm the education manager for the United States Fencing Coaches Association. And I'm sort of the technocrat, person juggling all the balls. And Vinny is the fantastic, wonderful person who helps, does amazing things, making all this sort of things happen. One of the things we want to make sure is that when people go to clinics, they receive something that is at their level that they can understand. So there's a balance to be struck there between gatekeeping, right, which we don't want to go into, and accessibility. So we want to make sure we're giving people access to what they need at the time that they need it. Part of that, one of the things that we're planning on doing, not necessarily at the beginning, but longer term down the road, is before you attend the clinics or the level that you're looking at, we want to have online material that you can participate in before you go. So that goes where we talk about what is the vocabulary that's going to be used. Do you understand the concepts of teaching that are being taught at that level? So that when you hit the clinics, you're ready to hit the ground running and go right into the weapon specific material of how do I teach, what is the mechanics of that parry? Where's that all going up? And so we're still not quite sure how that balance is going to work out right yet, but it's definitely something we have to keep into consideration. So for the beginning levels, we're anticipating, you come into where you need to come into at this point, at this stage of the game, and we'll do what we can to make sure you have received a good experience as we go along. So that's where we're starting, and we want to make sure everyone is welcomed and supported in that stage of the game. Really getting away from the gatekeeping model and more into the service to the community model.
I would also say this: if you are an assistant monitor but you're just chomping at the bit to go to a Prevo level clinic, you can pay the money to go, but and you'll learn something, but then you'll be outside of the certification pipeline, and it won't help you if you're in this new system. It won't help you with your certification. So you're free to spend your money on any clinic you want to go to. The other thing is we are not eliminating professional development clinics. We still hope the fencing community, like this summer, the Beverly Hills Fencing Center brought over Sicard from France. Well, we're not going to ask him to teach our curriculum, okay? But it was a wonderful learning experience. So we still want to have professional development clinics that are outside of this pipeline because we want continuing education growth. So there will be opportunity, hopefully, for beginning and intermediate and developmental coaches to go to some exciting high-level clinics as well.
And that'll also, those kind of things will also go from be part of the continuing education model that we have is going on as well. And just real quick, I understand Beverly Hills Fencers Club is planning on bringing Sicard back at some time this spring, and as someone who was at that clinic, if it happens again, go. It was one of the best learning experiences I've had in a long time, and I've taken a lot of coaching clinics from a lot of high-level coaches. It was one of the best. David, you asked, so someone can't go from uncertified to level 5 as their first class? I think that's going to be a trick during, one of the things we have to figure out in the long term, how exactly that process is going to work out. We want to make sure people are supported. We want to make sure people get the material, the training material that they need. At the same time, not teaching down to anybody. I know that was something that someone had talked about previously, but there's opportunities for equivalencies. There's opportunities for helping people define what they need. Ultimately, it's what do you need? How can we empower you as a coach? Not what are we telling you to do?
Great. So I know we had some technical difficulties at the beginning. I appreciate everybody who pivoted over here from Facebook. It's turned out to be a little bit better, I think, anyway, than what Facebook Stream was offering. So appreciate everybody's flexibility. Go ahead, drop any other questions about this that you have into the comments on my Facebook page, and I can get them over to Vinnie and David and anybody else. But just speaking as somebody who, those of you who follow me know that I'm a curmudgeon about everything in this community. And so when I look at, what is happening with these NCDP standards, it's moving coaching certification into a positive direction. And when I look at the person that's in charge of running the ship in And Vinnie, if there's anybody that can really take this organization forward into the 21st century, it's Vinnie. And so, Vinnie, thank you so much for joining everybody for the stream tonight. It's been awesome to hear about this and get some really good pointed questions. So thank you.
Yeah,
And the recording will be posted as well, I believe, on the USFCA YouTube channel. So if anybody wants to, access it that wasn't here tonight, they'd be able to do it.
and thank you, Damien, for setting all this up. I'm sorry we had technical troubles, but I really appreciate you setting this up. And it was great to see so many old friends and such great support from the coaching community. And I look forward to working with all of you in the future.
Thank you all. Have a great night.
Okay, I think it went well.
I think it went pretty well. I'm sorry I couldn't be at the beginning, but I got in as soon as I could.
What'd you think, Brenda? You're muted. You're still muted.
Still muted.
How about you, Andy? Are you with us? No, he walked away. He got bored.
He walked away, yeah. He's heard this all already.
Yeah, yes. Well, you can tell me later, Brenda. You can call me later and tell me if you, because.
Found it.
All right, awesome,
There we go.
awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, it was fun seeing David all bundled up.
I was sitting in my car for a little bit.
I know, I could tell. Yeah, I know. I especially like Christina's comments about parafencing, and because we talked about doing the parafencing coaches here, so I think that would be great if we could do it.
Yeah, it's gonna happen. I mean, it's on our list. And it was when we started this process, it had equal billing with everything else.
Right.
But literally, Julio and Gary, who really are like the two guys that really need to be involved in this process, and Julio really wants to participate as a national coach. And so when he said, please, after Paris, we were like,
yeah,
okay, sure, that is fine. That is a legitimate request. If a national coach says, I want to be part of this process, I want to do it, I want to help it. And in some ways that's actually good, because it's going to give us the opportunity to work out some of the kinks. And there's it's a huge project, right? It's a huge project. So we'll be able to have that pair of stuff and ready to get to go. So then it's just a question of slot it in, make it, and deploy it as we go forward.
Right.
I imagine we'll be doing some initiatives around para coaching in the meantime. I'm sure it's gonna happen. There's already stuff on the books to make it happen, to be done. But that's, there's so many things we want to do that it's just like, okay,
no
where do
time to do it.
Yeah, well, and we have to pick and choose. I mean, it's like,
right.
But I should stop recording.
Yeah.
Stop.